Welcome to the deep dive. You've got a pile of text, maybe loads of documents, and you need to figure out what's actually in them fast.
Right, without reading every single line.
Exactly. And that's where topic modeling shines. Today, we're really going to dig into one specific tool, BERTopic. It's a Python library, and honestly, it can be a bit of a game changer.
It really can. And we're not talking basic keyword counting here. BERTopic leverages transformer models, think BERT, and similar tech. It gets at the meaning behind the words.
So it's pulling out the core themes, the actual substance.
Yeah, trying to understand the bigger picture that all those words paint together.
Okay, so our mission today isn't just to say, hey, BERTopic exists, we want to, crack it open. Look at the technical stuff inside, the nuts and bolts that make it so flexible and, frankly, so powerful for your text analysis needs.
Absolutely. Because understanding how it works, what components are involved, that really lets you appreciate its capabilities and figure out how to best apply it to, well, whatever information you're trying to make sense of.
So where do we start? What's the big picture view of how BERTopic is put together?
Well, the first thing to grasp is its modularity. It's almost like building with Legos. You have these different functional blocks.
Okay.
And you can swap them out, configure them, choose different options for different stages. It's not just one monolithic thing.
Right, like a pipeline with interchangeable parts. So what are these main parts, these blocks?
Okay, so the typical flow looks something like this. First, you take your documents and you embed them. That's document embedding, turning text into meaningful numbers.
Got it. The numerical fingerprint.
Exactly. Then there's an optional step, dimensionality reduction. Sometimes those fingerprints are really, really complex, so this can simplify them a bit.
Okay, makes sense.
After that, you do clustering, grouping the similar fingerprints, the similar documents, together. These groups are basically your potential topics.
Finding the themes.
Finding the themes. Then, topic representation. This is crucial as how you figure out what each cluster is about. BERTopic uses a method called TF-IDF for this, which we'll definitely unpack.
TF-IDF.
Okay. And finally, there's another optional stage. Fine-tuning the topic representations. Sometimes you want to refine the keywords or descriptions even further.
All right, that sounds like a solid process. Let's dive into that first block, document embedding. What's happening there technically?
So the goal is simple. Computers don't understand words directly, right? They understand numbers. Embedding converts your text into numerical vectors, lists of numbers. They capture the semantic meaning. If two documents are about similar things, their vectors should be, well, kind of close together in this mathematical space.
And what does BERTopic use out of the box for this?
By default, it uses a model from the sentence transformers library, specifically all MinLM L6v2. It's pretty popular. It strikes a good balance between being fast and being quite effective at understanding sentence-level meaning.
But you mentioned the Legos, so we're not stuck with just MinLM.
Oh, absolutely not. This is where that modularity really kicks in. It's incredibly flexible. If you're into Hugging Face transformers, you can plug in pretty much any model from their massive library.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, or maybe you prefer models from Flare or Spacey supported. Even older techniques like TF-IDF vectors or GenSim word embeddings can be used as the embedding layer.
So you can bring your own favorite way of turning text into numbers.
You really can. And it goes further. If you've got, say, text and images, there are backends for multimodal embeddings. Or maybe you've already computed your embeddings elsewhere. You can just pass those pre-calculated vectors straight into BERTopic. It handles external APIs too, like OpenAI or Cohere, if you want to use their embedding models.
That's serious and flexible. Okay, so we have our vectors. Now, about that optional dimensionality reduction step, why would we want to reduce dimensions? Isn't more information better?
You'd think so, but sometimes these embeddings can live in a space with hundreds, even thousands of dimensions. That's a lot. It can lead to what's called the curse of dimensionality.
Right, where things get really sparse and distances become less meaningful.
Exactly. It can make clustering algorithms less effective or computationally very expensive. Dimensionality reduction tries to project that data down into a lower dimensional space, maybe just 5 or 10 dimensions, while keeping the important relationships between the documents intact. It's like making a simpler map that still shows the key connections.
And what's the default tool for making this simpler map?
The default is UML Uniform Manifold Approximation and Projection. It's a pretty sophisticated algorithm that's known for being good at preserving both the local structure, like which documents are immediate neighbors, and the global structure, the overall layout of the clusters.
So it tries not to lose the important patterns when it simplifies.
That's the goal. But again, modularity. If UMAP isn't your preference, or if you have reasons to use something else, you can plug in other techniques. Anything from scikit-learn that has that kind of interface, like PCA or truncated SVD, works.
Principal component analysis, yeah. Familiar territory for some.
Right. And if you're dealing with massive data sets, there's GPU acceleration available via KeyML's UMP implementation. Speed things up considerably.
Or you can just skip it.
Or just skip it entirely. Set the parameter to false. If your data set isn't huge or your embedding model produces lower dimensional vectors anyway, you might not need it.
Okay, makes sense. So embeddings are done, maybe reduced. Now, clustering, grouping the similar stuff together.
Yep. This is where we actually form the topics.
Mm-hmm.
We take those numerical representations, those vectors, and we feed them into a clustering algorithm. The algorithm's job is to find groups or clusters of vectors that are close to each other in that embedding space.
And the assumption is close vectors means similar topics.
But that's the core assumption.
So what's the default clustering algorithm in BERTopic?
It uses HDBSCAN. That stands for Hierarchical Density-Based Spatial Clustering of Applications with Noise.
Bit of a mouthful.
Yeah, it is. But it's a really good choice for topic modeling for a few reasons. One, it can find clusters of varying densities. So some topics may be tightly grouped, others more spread out. HDBSCAN handles that.
Unlike something like k-means, which assumes sort of spherical clusters.
Exactly. Two, you don't usually need to tell how many clusters, how many topics you expect to find beforehand. It figures that out from the data structure. That's huge, because often you just don't know the right number.
Definitely a common problem.
And third, it explicitly identifies outliers points that don't really seem to belong strongly to any cluster. In topic modeling, these are often documents that are off-topic or maybe just very unique.
Okay, HDBSCAN sounds robust, but following the pattern, can we swap it out?
You guessed it. Total modularity here, too. Any clustering algorithm that fits the scikit-learn style API, basically, having a fit into predict or .fit_predict method can be plugged in. So if you want to use k-means or agglomerative clustering or something else entirely, you absolutely can.
So you could even use it for semi-supervised approaches if your clustering model was actually a classifier trained on some known topics.
That's a more advanced use case, but yes, the framework allows for that kind of flexibility. And like with UMAP, if you have a compatible GPU, you can use QML's version of HDBSCAN for a significant speed up on large data sets.
Okay, clusters formed, we have groups of documents, but how do we know what each group is about? This brings us to TF-IDF. What's the C stand for? Class.
Exactly. Class-based TF-IDF. This is BERTopic's clever way of generating descriptive keywords for each topic cluster. Standard TF-IDF looks at word importance within a document compared to a whole collection of documents.
Right. Term frequency times inverse document frequency.
TF-IDF adapts that idea. It treats all the documents assigned to a single cluster, a single topic, as if they were one giant class document.
Oh, okay.
Then it calculates the TF-IDF score for each word within that class document, comparing its frequency there to its frequency across all the other class documents.
So it finds words that are frequent and important in this specific topic, but relatively rare in the other topics.
Precisely. It's designed to pull out the terms that uniquely characterize each discovered topic. The term frequency, TS part, is how often a word appears in the topic's combined text. The inverse document frequency, EDF part, measures how unique that word is across all the topics. High score means it's a good keyword for that topic.
Clever. And what's doing the heavy lifting under the hood for this calculation?
It primarily uses scikit-learn's count vectorizer. First, the vectorizer processes all your text, tokenizes it, breaks it into words, and builds a big matrix of word counts per document, the classic bag of words model.
Okay.
Then, BERTopic's own class-fitted transformer takes this count matrix and the cluster labels generated by HDBSCAN or whatever clustering algorithm you used and calculates those class-based TF-IDF scores.
And can we tweak this keyword generation? Maybe influence the kinds of words it picks?
Oh yes, plenty of knobs to turn here. Within the class-fitted transformer itself, you can enable things like BM25 weighting. BM25 is another weighting scheme, often used in search engines, that can sometimes give better results than standard IDF. There's also an option to reduce frequent words, which downweights very common words slightly.
Useful if things like data or model are showing up everywhere.
Exactly. And don't forget, you can heavily customize the count vectorizer before it even gets to the CTF-IDF part. You can set ending gram range to look for pairs or triplets of words like natural language processing instead of just single words. You can provide custom lists of stop words to ignore. You can set mine for max.if to filter words based on how frequently they appear across documents. Lots of control.
Right, so you can really tailor the vocabulary it considers. Okay, so CTF-IDF gives us a ranked list of keywords. What about that final optional step, the fine-tuning? Why might we need that?
Sometimes the raw CTF-IDF keywords, while statistically relevant, might not be the most intuitive or might contain some redundancy. Or maybe you want a different kind of representation. This is where the representation model parameter comes in.
Ah, another swappable component.
Yeah, got it. BERTopic offers several built-in options here. For example, KeyBERT-inspired uses embeddings again to find keywords that are not only frequent, from CTF-IDF, but also semantically very similar to the overall topic meaning.
So trying to get keywords that better capture the essence.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Another option is part of speech. You could use this to say, I only want nouns and verbs as my topic keywords, filtering out adjectives or adverbs that might be less central.
Handy for cleaner topic labels.
Definitely. Then there's maximal marginal relevance, or MMR. This one tries to balance relevance, how important a keyword is, with diversity, how different it is from keywords already selected. It helps avoid lists where all the top keywords are just slight variations of the same concept.
Oh, I like that, getting broader coverage.
It can be really helpful. And it gets even more advanced. There's zero-shot classification, where you can provide your own candidate labels, and it tries to match the discovered topics to your labels using a zero-shot classification model.
Whoa, okay, so trying to map the unsupervised topics to predefined categories.
Exactly. And perhaps the most exciting area right now is integrating large language models, LLMs.
Like GPT?
Yep. OpenAI's GPT models, Cohere models, open source ones like Llama 2 or Zephyr.
Yeah.
Through integrations like LangChain or LM, you can actually ask an LLM to look at the documents in a topic and generate a more natural, human-readable label or even a short summary for it.
That sounds incredibly powerful for interpretation.
It really takes topic description to another level. And get this, you can chain these representation models. You could say, first use CTF-IDF, then MMR for diversity, and then feed that refined list to an LLM to generate a final summary.
Wow, a multi-stage refinement pipeline just for the labels.
Exactly. The flexibility is quite remarkable.
Okay, this is all sounding very powerful, but also potentially complex in terms of setup. If someone wants to get started, what are the key technical things they need installed? Just pip install BERTopic.
That's the base, yes. Pip install BERTopic gets you the core library, but to actually use most of the functionalities we've discussed, you'll need optional dependencies.
Ah, the extras.
Right. For the default embedding model, all min LM L6v2, you need sentence transformers. For the default dimensionality reduction, you need maplearn. For the default clustering, you need HDB scan. And scikit-learn underpins a lot of this, so that's usually essential too.
So the defaults require installing those specific libraries separately?
Correct. And then it branches out depending on what else you want to do. Want Flare embeddings? Install Flare. Want Spacey? Install Spacey plus the language model. Hugging Face Transformers. Install Transformers. Gensim. Install Gensim. Want to use OpenAI's API? Install OpenAI Cohere.Cohere. LLM integration via LangChain.LangChain and maybe LangChain OpenAI or similar.
So you pick and choose based on the components you plan to use.
Exactly. Need GPU acceleration with Rapix. You'll install Cutoff, Cummel, Cugraph, CuPy. Want the interactive visualizations? You need Plotly and maybe Jinja 2. There's another visualization called DataMapPlot, which needs DataMapPlot. Understanding these dependencies is key to setting up an environment that has what you need without unnecessary bloat.
Right. Tailored installation for your technical goals. Okay. Install the bits we need. How do we tell BERTopic which Lego blocks to actually use? That must be in how we initialize it, right? The BERTopic call.
Precisely. The BERTopic constructor is where you define the architecture for your specific run. It's packed with parameters that map directly to the components we've discussed.
Like embedding model.
Yep. The embedding model parameter is key. You can pass a string name for a sentence transformer model, like the default, or, crucially, you can pass an instance of an embedding object you've already created, maybe a Flare document embeddings object, or a Spacey pipeline, or even your own custom embedding function.
Total control over the embedding part. And for the others.
Same idea. Map model takes an instance of UMP or PCA or whatever dimensionality reducer you want, or you set it to none or false to skip it.
Okay.
HDB scan model takes your clustering model instance, like HDBS scan, min cluster size 15, or maybe k-means.
And cluster stem. Ah, so you configure the clustering algorithm before passing it in.
Exactly. Then vectorizer model lets you pass in a pre-configured scikit-learn count vectorizer with your specific enneagram settings, stop words, etc. C-fit model lets you pass a configured class fit of transformer with BM25 weighting turned on, for instance.
And the representation fine-tune it?
That's a representation model parameter. You can pass a single model instance like keyword-inspired, or a list of them like MMR, part-of-speech, encore websum, to chain them, or even a dictionary if you want multiple different representations calculated for each topic.
It really feels like every major step is exposed as a parameter you can swap out.
That's the core design philosophy. And there are other important parameters too, of course. Top on words controls how many keywords you see per topic. Min topic size is a crucial one for controlling how small a cluster can be to still be considered a topic, often adjusted via the HDB scan model parameters like min cluster size.
Right. Better to control it at the source in the clustering algorithm.
Generally, yes. There's enter topics which can try to reduce the number after clustering, but it's usually less precise. Then you have parameters like seed topic list for guided topic modeling or zero-shot topic list for that zero-shot mapping we mentioned earlier. These parameters directly leverage the underlying technical components to enable specific modeling strategies.
We've covered the engine room thoroughly. What about seeing the output? You mentioned visualizations. Is there a technical basis for those too?
Yeah, absolutely. BERTopic heavily leverages Plotly for its interactive visualizations. Plotly is great for creating charts you can zoom into, hover over, and explore. There are plots to see the topics projected in 2D space, often using the UAMP coordinates, plots showing the keyword scores for each topic, hierarchical clustering diagrams, and more.
So they're not just static images.
No, they're designed to be interactive tools for understanding the model's results. DataMapPlot is another library it can use for a different style of visualization. These visual outputs are technically grounded in the results of the embedding, reduction, clustering, and representation steps, providing crucial insights into how well the model worked on your data.
And briefly, you touched on custom components earlier. This just reinforces the whole modularity idea, right?
It's the ultimate expression of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because BERTopic is built this way, if you have, say, a brand new cutting-edge clustering algorithm you developed, as long as you make it behave like a scikit-learn cluster with fit.predict, etc., you can potentially just slot it right into the HDB scan model parameter. Same goes for embedding, dimensionality reduction.
Yeah.
If you can make your custom component conform to the expected technical interface, you can likely integrate it. It truly makes BERTopic an extensible framework, not just a fixed tool.
Okay, so wrapping up this technical deep dive into BERTopic, what are the absolute key takeaways for our listeners thinking about using it?
I think the main takeaway is BERTopic's power comes directly from its modular architecture. It's designed from the ground up to be customizable. You're not locked into one way of doing things.
Right. You have technical choices at every major step. Embedding, dimensionality reduction, clustering, and especially how the topics are represented and refined.
Exactly. And this flexibility, enabled by all these technical components and parameters we've discussed, means you can really tailor the process to your specific text data, your specific goals, whether you need speed, accuracy, interpretability, or some combination.
And hopefully, understanding these technical underpinnings empowers you, the listener, to go beyond just running the defaults. You can now make informed choices, adapt the tool effectively, and ultimately get much richer insights from whatever text you're analyzing.
That's the hope. Which brings us to maybe a final thought for you to ponder.
Yeah.
Considering this whole toolbox of technical options within BERTopic, all the different embedding backends, the clustering choices, the sophisticated representation models like LLMs or MMR, which specific component, which technical piece sparks your curiosity the most, what do you think might be most impactful for the kind of information you work with? Something to think about as you perhaps explore the documentation further or start experimenting.